Welcome back to episode number 3 of The Uncommon Edge. Tonight's episode is about becoming the man you needed. Every man is shaped by someone, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So this episode challenges men to stop blaming, start healing, and intentionally becoming the man they once needed for themselves, for their family, and for their legacy.
Welcome to The Uncommon Edge, the podcast for men who are built different. I'm your host, Matthew Gurney, and this is where we sharpen the edge in business, in fatherhood, in faith, and in life. If you're tired of watered-down leadership, empty motivation, and surface-level hustle culture, you're in the right place. Let's knock off the rust, sharpen our edge, and forge our metal together.
Welcome back to The Uncommon Edge, where men rise above mediocrity and build what others won't dare to. I'm your host, Matthew Gurney, and today we're going to talk about something deep, something personal, and something that every man has wrestled with, whether he admits it or not. See, guys, it's not all rah-rah here on this podcast. We're going to have some featured guests and some keynotes along the way. But, guys, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is the trenches of being men, of fatherhood, of husbandry, of entrepreneurship and leadership. This is where things get real. So if you're looking for motivation and some rah-rah speech here, you're probably not always going to find it. But what you're going to find is some practical advice, some ways to actually deal with some hard truths that we face as men. Whether it's trauma of our childhood, whether it's something that we suffered and endured in adulthood, whatever it is, I want to try my best to be all-inclusive, that we at least hit some point of each and every one of our lives. And it's an encouragement to you to be better. Because frankly, guys, if we're not desirous to be better, then we're failing. So tonight we're going to talk about becoming the man you needed when you were younger. So before all the scars and the shame, before the mask, because as men, we're pretty good at putting on a facade, aren't we? We're pretty good about not letting a lot of people in. Most people might not even know those traumas and those heartaches, because as men, we just keep those things close. We don't want a lot of people to know. We don't want a lot of people to know the nitty-gritty about our lives. So if we're not careful, those things, they fester and they become a bitterness, and it becomes a poison in us. It doesn't allow us to fully become who it is that God has created us to be. And that's a danger in growth. It always puts pressure on us. It always makes things more difficult for us to overcome, because we're weighed down by these things of the past, rather than letting them go or releasing them or finally getting peace. So tonight, what I want to address is the wound and the wake up. Let's be honest. A lot of us grew up without the man we needed. Maybe he was there physically, but absent emotionally. Maybe he was never there. Maybe he broke more than he built. But here's the truth, guys. You don't have to stay stuck in that story. I'll tell a little bit of a personal story, and you've heard a bit about my childhood, and I want to tread lightly, because I don't want you guys to get a perception of things that aren't realistic. But the best way for me to come alongside you and hold your guys' arms up is to give you an example of just life experience. Whenever I was in the 5th grade, my mother filed for divorce from my father. Around sixth grade, the divorce was finalized, and my childhood home that my parents had built just a couple years prior, and the piece of property that my family had worked so hard for, was given back to the bank. It was repossessed, I guess. I forget the terminology right off the top of my mind. But what this did was it ultimately sent my dad into a spiral. Essentially he had worked and lost the things that he had worked for. This is after just a few years after his heart attack. He lost his really high paying job. There was a lot of things that took place during that time that were just a blow to a man's spirit. And then ultimately losing his wife of, I think at that time my parents had been married 20 plus years, for a very long time. And then my mom moving my brother, myself, and herself into my grandmother's house. My dad was now in this empty home that he had built for his family. And now the bank was about to take it back. And my dad ended up, this was a massive stress to him, and ended up spiraling into a chronic depression. And towards the end of my, I believe, sixth or seventh grade year, my dad attempted to take his life by a razor blade while he was staying in a group home. He had gotten the razor blade after he had taken a shower and locked himself in a closet inside of his room. They got to him, thank God, before he bled out. But my dad did it in such a way that he intended to take his life. And the reason why was because he had some social security and different things that were coming, that he knew if he had taken his life that um, he would that money would have gone to my brother and I, or to my mom to take care of my brother and I. And that was his thought. His thought as a man was that essentially he was finished raising us, and um, life was essentially over. That the best he could do for us was just to provide a way. And um, I remember walking into the hospital room, and my dad's still laying in the same bed with the wounds covered and masked, but there was still a lot of blood still on the sheets and different things from where they had worked on him. And my dad was conscious, he was awake and fully coherent. And I remember such a peace and a radiance actually from my dad's face. And it's strange to say after such an event, but it seemed as if he just had peace. And guys, if I'm honest with you, it was something that I held over my father for a very long time, that he would ultimately take the easy way out. He would ultimately give up his life, though I didn't see the sacrifice at the time. I knew my dad was hurting. He was losing everything. He didn't have his job anymore. He didn't have his home anymore. He didn't have his wife anymore, and he didn't have his children anymore. And so he was seeking a way to just get over the pain. And that was the way he chose. And for a long time, I held that against my father. And shortly after that, a facility took my dad to court, and the judge ultimately found my dad to be chronically depressed and a detriment to himself. And they placed him into a mental facility in the southern part of the state in which I live. And my dad spent over a year there. Like I said in the previous podcast, my dad had never missed any games until that moment. And that was my eighth grade football season. We were very, very good at football. I never lost a game in middle school, seventh and eighth grade. We beat everybody, and we did it handedly. And it was one of those years that I finally started to really get some playing time and started to make known that, I could play that sport. But my dad missed it the entire season. Um, the only way that he would actually get to see it was on recordings and VHS at the time. But it was it was a difficult thing for me because I was living with my mother and my grandmother. I had two women essentially trying to raise me through some of the most important time of my life, which was, preteen teenagers. And ultimately, I ended up staying with my grandmother through high school. So I was being raised by a matriarch rather than a patriarch. And as a young man, I really needed the influence of a man. I got it through football. I got it through some coaches and some mentors and some men that just stepped into my life and wanted the best for me, and they spoke that into my life. But in reality, guys, I needed my dad. Um, and for a couple of years, he just wasn't there in the way I needed him. And really, it was my fault. And I know, maybe you guys think I shouldn't take the blame for that, but I did push my dad away. I blamed him for some things even. And, now that I'm older and I have a family of my own and I'm a man, I see the heart behind it. As maybe silly as that sounds, I understand. And I didn't then, and I held it against my dad. And, I wouldn't speak kindly to him at times. And there was times that I wouldn't even speak to him. And there was times that, he was looking for love again. He was looking for companionship again, and would have a girlfriend or something like that. I would hate it. I mean, I hated it, honestly. Same thing with my mother whenever she did. And I hated it. I wanted my parents to be together. They were my parents. That was what I was seeing with my friends, and that's what I wanted. But I would hold it against my dad because I just didn't understand all the circumstances behind it all. But I blamed him because he was the man. Like, he was the one that was supposed to take care of this stuff. And now looking back, I hate it. I regret it. I wish I would have extended more grace to my father, but at that time I just didn't. And it really hindered our relationship. And, I sought mentorship and leadership in other men that I held to high esteem, that were noble and honorable. And I'm not saying my father wasn't those things. Towards the end of my father's life, him and I became very good friends. Even he became a mentor to me. He was somebody that I looked to for advice. And, I was young and foolish at this time. So I was seeking out some of that mentorship from these other men. And, I had some football coaches. I had one man in particular. He was a state trooper, who just passed away here recently. And, um, he took me under his wing. He met me at my grandmother's. He spent time with me. He spoke life into me. He saw something more in me than I saw in myself. And it was very difficult for me at that time to have that much self-confidence. I was proud because I was a young man, but self-confidence lacked. You know, Everybody would have said that, I was prideful, but ultimately, whenever it came to having some confidence in myself, it just lacked. And I needed men. I needed somebody to tell me that I was something, that I could be something. See, guys, you don't get to choose your start. You don't get to choose your father. You don't get to choose the men in your life often, at least not until you get older. Sometimes you're just a victim of your circumstances, and I understand that. I understand that not everybody is around men that are honorable and noble. Some men have to just endure some of these hardships, especially in their youth. But guys, you get to choose how you respond. You don't have to get stuck in this trap of blame. Because of that, some men, they never heal because they keep blaming those that hurt them, those that weren't there for them, those that abandoned them. Because blame feels safe, but it builds nothing. Guys, it's a poison that rottens your bones. So we can lash out and we can bite and we can blame those men that hurt us, those men that should have been there. You should have been there. Why weren't you there? And then we cast them out of our lives, or we're bitter against them, or we blame them for the faults of our life, or why we haven't advanced any further. And guys, all that does is hold you back. Bitterness and blame rob men of power, because you can't build a future while obsessing over who broke your past. Think about it. We have to shift our focus from being a victim to becoming a vessel for change. Guys, you can live in this woe is me mentality all that you want, but it's not going to change anything. You're going to stay exactly where you are. And if you choose that, then great, you should. You should stay exactly where you are. You don't deserve to be better. I'm sorry, that's a harsh reality. But if you can't overcome some of this, if you can't let some of this go, if you can't learn to forgive and stop passing blame and fault on other people, then you deserve to be stuck. You deserve it. Don't blame me for that. It's on you. Because you could also become a vessel for change. That means you stop looking inwardly and you start looking out. You start looking out and you start becoming the man that you needed. So let's flip the question a little. Because what kind of man did you need? What kind of man did you need whenever you were 10 or 15 or 22? See, guys, at 10 years old, my mother and father got a divorce. My father stopped being present every single day. He ultimately attempted to take his life and then wasn't present for a year or more. And then after that, it was just bitterness and anger. You know, at 15 years old, I was becoming a man. And I actually remember sitting in the house that my mom had rented, and my dad was there. My mom was, trying to give my dad a second chance. And my dad was just, he was trying to teach me how to be a man. And I just kept butting up against it. And I remember sitting in chairs on opposite sides of the room. And I essentially told my dad I was going to fight him. I'd had enough. I thought I was a man. I had my big boy pants on. I was strong and fast and fit and athletic. I was playing sports and lifting weights, and I thought I was something. Guys, my dad was a bear. That man would have had me handedly. Even at that time. He would have gotten close to me, he would have snatched me up, and I'd have been done for. But I thought I was something. At 15 years old, I thought that I could just whoop him. Because I was foolish. And then at 22, guys, at 22, I came to know the Lord Jesus. And I gave my life to him. And then God started calling me into the ministry. And at that time, I started seeking after my father. I'd forgiven him. I'd started to lay some of the things down that beset me, that hindered his and I's relationship. And I started closing the gap. And I realized I could start talking to my father about some of those things that hurt me. Eventually, my dad, he asked me the question, Matthew, what is the one thing that I did to you that hurt the most? And I was honest with him. I told him it was the time he tried to take his life. Guys, right before my dad passed away, just a few months, I actually asked him if he was proud of me. I remember standing at my kitchen sink. I'd had a little family. My son was 2. My daughter was just born. My roofing company at the time was just starting to take off, but I was seeing more money than I'd ever seen in my life. Had made more money than anybody I'd known in my family. We were doing well. There was some success story coming out of this. But I had never heard my dad actually tell me blatantly that he was proud of me. I could see it in some actions. I understood it and I started to feel it. He started to actually see me as a man. But my dad always told me, he always called me a Ferrari trying to plow a field. And in some roundabout way, it was my dad's way of encouraging me to be better. To stop being a sports car trying to do something it wasn't made to do. Just get on the road and stink and hammer it, is what he was trying to tell me. And in that same conversation that he said he was proud of me, he said that I'd finally pull that sports car out on the road. And guys, that may mean so little to you, but to me, it meant a lot. Not that I was striving for the acknowledgement, I guess, of my father, which, I was in a sense, but I was going to do it either way. But to hear it from him meant an awful lot to me. Who did you need? Now the question is who was that man for you? Who was the man that believed in you? Who was the man that challenged you? The one that showed up, the one that prayed with you, the one that led you with strength and love. Guys, like I said last podcast, it's not just about being the big burly man, honorable and noble, but it's also about loving our families. Even our sons, fellas, they need to know their father loves them. There is strength in love, even. Don't let the world get that twisted for you. Our boys, especially our little boys, need to know that we love them. And as they become men, don't be scared to tell them. They need to hear it. It might just turn their hearts. Now the question is if you didn't have that man that believed in you or challenged you or showed up for you or prayed with you or led you with strength and with love, if you didn't have that, guess what? Then you get to become it. Your healing isn't just for you, fellas. It's for the ones watching you now. It's for the little eyes. It's for the mentor. It's for the young men at work. It's for the young men in the church. It's for the young men at the youth events and at the sporting events, the ones that you coach, the ones that are looking to you for guidance and mentorship. Now it's for them. Stop being so selfish with your bitterness. Get over it. Let it go. Look to future generations now. Stop letting that hinder the progress of future generations, because let me tell you this, it's important for you now to start guiding and mentoring them. Use the hurt as motivation, that's fine. Don't use it as a poison and bitterness, but use it as a way to correct, to help you guide someone else. If you have to do that way, then do it. Guys, after my dad passed away, I literally went to the same gym that him and I started to work out in towards the latter part of his life. My dad kept asking me if he could go to the gym with me. There were times that I just was too busy, and I finally, after he passed away, I just regretted every bit of that. Those times that I denied coming to pick him up to take him to the gym with me. Like just a little more time with him. And guys, I sat in the gym and I could literally see my father on those machines, and I was stinking ticked. I've never lifted so hard in my life because, guys, I was so angry. I was angry that I let him down like that. I was angry that I didn't spend the time with him, that I was so selfish. Guys, if it takes some of that to light a fire under your rear end, then let's do it. Let some of that stuff move you to be better, to be more. Because becoming that man, it isn't just a theory. This isn't just a feel-good message. Fellas, this is war. It's work. It takes time. It takes effort to get over this. And then to become who you are called, who you are meant to be. It takes some aggression sometimes. Controlled violence even. This is war, guys. It's war to let our emotions go. Stop getting riled up and bent out of shape every time something inconveniences you. Suck it up. Stop letting your children see you fly off the handle. Curse. Put people down. Get angry and throw stuff. Guys, I'm going to give 4 clear action steps here. And I want you to write these down and take heed. Number 1 is forgive who failed you. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve it. Second one is lead your heart. Don't follow it. Lead your heart, which means building habits and disciplines that anchor you. Guys, spend some time in meditation. Let these things go. Spend some time in the gym. Release some of those endorphins, guys. Stop penting all this aggression and anger up. Third is to show up for someone else. Like I said, stop looking inwardly. Start looking outwardly. Show up for a son is number 1. Show up for a brother or a younger man at the church or a younger man at the sport event. And then speak truth over your legacy. Stop repeating the cycle. You're rewriting it. So, you can either spend your life resenting the man who didn't show up for you, or you can become the man who never walks away. Guys, God's not done with your story, and the world needs what he's doing in you. So what are you going to do with your pain? Are you going to carry it, or are you going to redeem it? Thank you guys for joining me for the 3rd episode of The Uncommon Edge. This is The Uncommon Edge. We don't hide from hard things here. We face them, we grow through them, and we fight to become better men. So stay sharp, stay bold, and don't just be the man you wish you had. Be the man someone else is praying for. Be the man of the uncommon edge.